Hi, I'm Steve Sint and welcome to our lighting tutorial. How many photographers does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is 100. 1 to change the bulb and 99 to tell you how they would have done it differently. There's a moral to that story. A lot of photographers do things differently one from the other. All of them can be a good way to get the job accomplished. What we're going to try to be talking about today are broad concepts, general concepts that you can apply to your own individual set of ideas. The result is that you can bring creativity to how you do things photographically. Everybody's photographs should be slightly different. The idea is to take concepts and apply them and to meld them with your own ideas and your own thoughts. Fred, at this moment, is not lit by either light, be it a hard light or a soft light. But what we're going to do now is we're going to light Fred with a hard light. Turn on a hard light, please. I'm turning Fred a little bit into the hard light, and notice the eraser that we've fun-tacked to Fred's forehead. Notice, make believe it's a blemish on Fred's forehead. What's going on is this hard light is creating a hard edge shadow on Fred's forehead. The shadow of the eraser is creating a hard edge. It's a large, inky black shadow. Now we're going to turn off a hard light and we're going to turn on a soft light. Notice that the shadow that this light creates, the one over here, is very, very soft edged. It's called a soft light. One creates a hard edged shadow and the other creates a soft edged shadow. The soft edge shadow is less noticeable and it makes the subject's complexion, in this case in a portrait, look smoother. Now that we know the difference between a hard light and a soft light, let's talk about different kinds of soft lights. On my left, which is your right, we have an umbrella light. It's a photographic light where the light bounces off an umbrella. This is what it looks like. The shaft of the umbrella points in the direction that the light is going to be traveling. On this side, which is your left and my right, we have a bank light. It's also sometimes called a softbox. It can rotate from being a vertical to a horizontal format. They make them in square shapes, large shapes, small shapes, but a softbox is basically an opaque-sided fabric box that has a diffusion panel on the front end. A lot of subjects that you're going to be photographing when you shoot still life products are reflective, and those reflections reflect the shape and the size of the light you're using to light the product. That reflection is called a catch light. And although it's not of a primary concern when you're doing a portrait, the minute you start to do a reflective product like this glass bottle, catch lights become really important. Notice that this bottle right now is lit by this umbrella. Notice that the umbrella is creating a big, ugly, circular spot here, almost as if it looks like a spider. We're going to turn off this umbrella and we're going to turn on the bank light, which is on the other side. Umbrella's going off, bank light's going on. Now look at the catch light that we're getting. Right now we're getting a very, very smooth rectangular light that's very, very pretty. And because when you're photographing reflective items such as this bottle, what you're really photographing is not the item but the reflection of lights in the item. Even though the bank light gives us a much nicer, smoother catch light than an umbrella light, it still is producing a catch light that's relatively boring. It's uninteresting because what you basically have is a big rectangle of light. One way to make it look more interesting is if you get back to the basic concept of what a bank light is. A bank light, if you can imagine it in your mind, is a movable window. It's a window that you can place anywhere you want. Doesn't matter if you call it a bank light or a soft box, regardless. It's basically a large window that you can position where you want. One way to reinforce the concept that this is a window is to add mullions to the front of the bank light. Mullions are the little wooden strips that go between the panes of a larger window frame. The way to accomplish this with a backlight is to make a cross on the front of the backlight. In this instance, we use 2-inch wide black opaque gaffer tape. And if you look at the picture that follows, you'll see how the catch light that we're reflecting in the glass becomes more interesting. We've been speaking about softboxes and backlights, and I also pointed out the limitations of the fixed distance between the light and the front of the bank, the diffusion screen. And I also pointed out that the light on every commercially made available backlight is centered on the diffusion screen. But the real point of the whole thing, a softbox or a backlight, is the diffusion screen on the front of it. So instead of worrying about building an entire bank so that we can open up more creative possibilities, we're going to try to build something where we can independently position the light and the diffusion screen. We're going to be interested in changing the distance between the light and the diffusion screen, or the position of the light relative to the diffusion screen, so that we can open up different kinds of lighting possibilities. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a thing called a diffusion frame. It's a simple wooden frame. This one is 3 feet by 3 feet that we're going to staple a piece of set shop Tough Lux to. There are simple corner brackets that will hold each corner of the wood together. On this particular one, instead of using just one corner bracket, we're actually going to I used 2 different corner brackets so you can see what's commercially available. A set of 4 of these costs a few bucks. They're available in almost any hardware store. These are some of the items that we're going to be using to create our diffusion frame. This is a countersink bit. It drills a hole in the wood, and it also makes room for the head of the screw so that the wood doesn't split when you drive a regular screw into it. We finished our 4 foot by 4 foot diffusion frame, and I have here a roll of Set Shop Tough Lux. It comes in 60-inch wide rolls, and it also comes in 48-inch wide rolls. The 48-inch wide rolls are about 20 mils thick, that's 20 thousandths of an inch, and the 60-inch wide roll is approximately 40 mils thick. I prefer the 40 mil thick version better because it gives you a little bit more diffusion. But whichever type you choose, you have to be really, really careful, because this stuff is capable of giving you the world's worst paper cut. It's very serious. It's a very bad cut. So when you handle Set Shop Tough Lux, you have to remember to always not run your hand along the edge of the material. It's as sharp as a razor blade. Now my assistant Matt and I are going to lay this out, and we're just going to roll it out a little bit, and I'm going to take a staple gun, and I'm just going to run along the edge here, and then I'm going to trim this edge. This leaves us one more side. We just took a 3 foot by 3 foot diffusion screen, and we suspended it between 2 light stands with a grip on each side. That's a thing that allows you to clamp flags or scrims or diffusion screens on a light stand or between 2 of them. And basically, this is the same type of light that you would get from a bank light. But because the light and the diffusion screen can move independently, watch what happens when Matt pushes the light much closer to the diffusion screen. Bring it in even closer. There you go. Now, What Matt has done is that the light is a point source in the middle and it's diffusing out. But it doesn't have to be centered the way it is now. Matt's going to lower the diffusion screen and then he's going to tilt the light upwards. You can see how the light and the feeling of the picture and how the product itself, which is a calculator, turns from dead to alive, and as it moves from side to side, and it gives you freedom to light something to its best advantage. Is not only do commercial bank manufacturers want you to buy one of their commercial banks, they want you to buy a few different sized banks. They want you to buy a big bank. They want you to buy a little bank. They want you to buy a thing called a strip light, which is a narrow bank where if you have to shoot a bottle or a glass, it's sometimes good to have like a narrow surface bank, maybe 3 feet by 12 inches wide. You have a 3 foot by 3 foot diffusion frame here, and we were to clamp a piece of show card or black paper in front of the bank. A diffusion frame made out of a piece of 1 by 1 inch lumber, 3/4 inch square lumber, and 4 corner brackets and a sheet of tough Rolex weighs hardly anything. So you can take a relatively lightweight boom stand, throw a sandbag on it, and you can position your diffusion frame almost anywhere you want. You can't possibly do that with a sheet of a 1/4 inch acrylic. You actually almost can't do it with a commercially available bank because the thing is so unwieldy and big. A bank light can control extraneous light, and it doesn't have light spill off the edge of it like an umbrella does. But I can show you that by using 4 Bogan multi-clips, I'm using 4 metal barn doors, but you could just as easily use mat board, which is easy because, again, since the light is not inside a softbox, it doesn't generate as much heat. There's place for the heat to dissipate. Not only could you use 4 barn doors, metal barn doors and Bogan multi-clips to surround your light and change its pattern, but you could take a grid holder and slip that on the light. See the way this pattern now is almost filling up this entire diffusion screen? Well, if I put a grid holder on my light and then a grid would narrow it even further. So not only can you control the outside frame of the light, which would limit spill, but by putting a grid on it, you could also narrow the pattern of the light that's coming through your diffusion frame.